everybody, I'm back. I haven't been gone that long. About a month. I've been really, really busy with client work and with other things just kind of going on around, it's the holidays. It's busy. So videos until the beginning of January, they might be a little bit more sporadic. I usually try to upload stuff every Sunday. That may not be the case until after January, just because the holidays are so busy. Busy time of year, a lot of things going on. And like I said, client work, which has kept me very busy. Thank you to everybody that has hired me. I appreciate it very much. But over the past month, I have gotten some emails from people that were a part that have, well, I say that were a part, like the research isn't still going on, it is. But people have reached out asking about the Great Attractor research, Shapley Attractor research, the Dipole Repeller research, what I found so far, what's come through, what's come up. And I'm thinking, yeah, I need to fill y'all in on this because y'all took the time to, the 19 of y'all, 19. I was going to say 20. It's not quite 20. I filled it out too, actually, but I'm not counting my own right now. Because my own doesn't matter. But 19 people have reached out and have done the questionnaire. So it's a good time to start looking at what I found, talking about what I found, things like that. I do want to throw out really quick though, if you want to be a part of the research, if you want the questionnaire, or hell, if you don't even, let's say you don't want the questionnaire, but you just like want to share your experience with, a planet conjunct the Great Attractor. By the way, the Great Attractor is at 14 degrees Sagittarius right now, 14 degrees and some change, Sagittarius. Shapley Attractor is at roughly 2 degrees Scorpio. Dipole Repeller is at roughly 2 degrees Taurus. If you have any planets, that happen, planets, angles, asteroids, the lots or the parts, whatever, things conjunct those specific spots in the chart, feel free to, and you want to take part in the research. You volunteer as tribute to share in the questionnaire. By all means, please reach out. My email is ellie@saturnseason.com or saturnseason@gmail.com. They're both my emails. Feel free to reach out, ask me for it. I'm more than happy to get it to you. You are not obligated to fill it out. I know that there's some people that have reached out and I'm sure they probably looked at it and they were like, nah, I'm not doing that. And that is totally fine. That is totally fine too. And also if you do want to do the questionnaire, but you're filling it out and you're like, I don't know how to answer some of these, that's fine. You do not have to answer the whole thing if you don't want to, but it is still going on. It will be going on probably for a long time. I know the Galactic Center research, which is now like the Galactic Grand Cross research, that's been going on for like damn near 4 years now. I can't believe it's been going on. I'm like, holy shit, where did time go? But that research has been going on for 4 years. It's still almost 4 years. It's still going on. I don't see that ending anytime soon either. So if you want that questionnaire, by all means, let me know. That questionnaire covers the galactic center, planets, angles, asteroids, lots, parts, whatever, conjunct the galactic center. Right now it's at like 27 degrees Sagittarius. Galactic anti-center at like 27 degrees Gemini. That is not something that I pulled out of my ass. That is a real thing in the sky. Then also the super galactic center is in there. Right now, 2 degrees Libra. And whatever the hell opposes the super galactic center, I'm calling it blank space. I've been calling it that for a few years. It is at 2 degrees Aries. So if you've got planets, angles, etc., conjunct any of that, reach out and I'll get you the galactic Grand Cross questionnaire as well, or just that if you happen to have stuff conjunct that and not conjunct any of the attractors or whatever. Yeah. So I wanted to throw that out there. Or if you just want to share your experiences, I'm happy to read. I love hearing what you all have to say. Again, my email is ellie@saturnseason.com or saturnseason@gmail.com. And I also want to throw out one other thing, and it's kind of awkward. It's kind of awkward to bring up. So I've been doing research for a long time. Not so much on the Great Attractor, though I have, just not in like this kind of questionnaire format, but with the GC and stuff for a long time now. And I have not really had this issue until recently. I over the course of this month, since this really the questionnaire, I guess I started the questionnaire maybe, I don't know, month or two, right? It's only been going on like a month or two. I've had some people recently reach out and they're not really wanting to, they're not wanting to do the questionnaire. They're not wanting to, they're not wanting me to, they're not wanting to just share things with me. Essentially, I think they're looking for me to just read for them for free. You know, this, you know, I do a lot of free reading on Reddit for people. I have for years. I do believe in giving back. I do believe in doing things for free. But I do think that there is something very rude about reaching out to somebody through their business email and kind of asking them to do stuff for free. I think that that's rude. And I think it's in poor taste. And I can be pretty tacky myself in other ways. Um, and unrefined and all that. But I don't do that. There's something that does feel very tacky and rude about that. So I would appreciate, you know, like if you want your chart, like if you don't have the money, God knows I get it. I get it. If you want a reading, I would recommend going to Reddit, going to a place like Reddit. The subreddit Let's Fuck with Astrology is still operational. It's still functional. I sometimes will read on there. I'm still lurking all the time, but I'll read on there sometimes. There's some other people that read on there that are awesome. Throw your question out there, see what comes back. Other forums too, right? Other subreddits. Some are kind of, I'll be honest, some of those subreddits are kind of douchey. I don't know if you I don't know if you there are a few that are all right. A couple of them are kind of like, I don't know. They're kind of, you wind up with some twats that answer stuff. Anyway, that's a whole other conversation for another time. But definitely you can go to Let's Fuck with Astrology, that subreddit, and put something, you can ask whatever you want. But that would be my recommendation. If you're wanting to have somebody read for you and you're not able to pay them for whatever reason, that would be what I would recommend doing. Throwing your question out there and see what comes back. But yeah, I love hearing from y'all. I love y'all sharing things with me, but I would appreciate it if, if you're reaching out to have me read for you, that you're, looking to hire me. And right now, just to throw out there, Saturn season astrology is 6 years old. It's actually December 14th today, as I'm filming this, which is Saturn season astrology's 6th birthday. So because the 6th year in business has always been a big thing in my head, like 6 years in business, not 5, not 10, but 6. I am running a special on Zoom readings from December 6th through January 6th of 2025. And I'm doing 30 minutes for $50, an hour for 100. Normally 30 minutes is 65 and an hour is 120. So there's a little bit knocked off. So that is going on until January 6th. Okay, now to the research. I'll make sure to timestamp this. So if anybody's like, I don't care about her housekeeping shit she has to say. Okay. So the Great Attractor stuff, it's interesting. I want to say off the bat, it's interesting. When I was doing as I've done the GC research, I noticed that there was when people would talk about planets conjunct the galactic center, they tended to talk about those planets as if that planet was a retrograde planet, right? I noticed this pretty quickly. Like people would talk about Mercury, having Mercury conjunct the GC, but it was very like the way they would talk about Mercury in their chart was very Mercury retrograde, the way Mercury retrograde functions. Same thing with like Venus retrograde. Like I have Venus retrograde, or not, I don't have Venus retrograde. I have Venus conjunct the GC, but it functions like a retrograde Venus. There is a retrograde flavor to it. I've always thought that. I'm not the only person with Venus conjunct the GC that also their Venus functions like a retrograde Venus in a lot of ways. So I noticed pretty early on that planets conjunct the GC had a retrograde flavor to them, just by virtue of the way that people would talk about those planets or planet or whatever. That's not the case with the Great Attractor or with the Shapley Attractor or with the Dipole Repeller. That does not appear to be the case. That doesn't mean that that won't change. Keep in mind, I only have 19 people so far that have done this, that have done the questionnaire. But I mean, even with the people that say didn't do the questionnaire, but over like they've just talked about a planet or whatever conjunct to the Great Attractor, or conjunct Shapley, or conjunct the Dipole Repeller. The way people will talk about that planet, even just in sharing things without even doing the questionnaire, they don't talk about it in the same way. So that strikes me as interesting. I wasn't really sure to expect it or not. I guess in the back of my mind, I was thinking that it was possible that it might come through like that. But I think it's interesting that so far it doesn't seem to be. That doesn't mean that it won't change though. It could change. I could get a wave of like 19 more people and they all talk about every fucking planet or whatever as if it was retrograde. So the next time I do one of these, it could be very different. My finding could be very, very different. But as of now, it doesn't appear to be the case. Oh, and just to clarify, the planets that I just in case that was confusing, the planets that I'm talking about, like with the GC research, some people have retrograde planets conjunct the galactic center. Obviously, those are going to have a retrograde flavor, right? Because they're retrograde. I'm talking specifically about the people that had like planets direct, still talking about that planet as if it was a retrograde planet. That's what I mean here. Like people that have like some planet conjunct the Great Attractor and it's direct, they talk about it like a direct planet. They're not talking about a planet that's direct in their chart, but it having like a retrograde flavor to it. That's what I mean. Because like with this Great Attractor research so far and Shapley and stuff, there have been people that have had like Mars retrograde conjunct the Great Attractor or whatever, you know. Obviously that person, they're the way they talk about that Mars retrograde is like retrograde because it's Mars retrograde. But I just thought that was interesting that this particular thing, which does kind of, you know, there are similarities between the Great Attractor and the GC. I've mentioned it before in other videos from years ago about how they both kind of seem like they have like they're they have like little antennas that are that are sending out and receiving signals in different ways. And I'm still trying to pick that apart because they are different, but they have that similar kind of thing going on. Yeah. I'm still trying to pick that particular part apart. Now as far as the GC, or sorry, as far as the GA GA goes, one of the questions was, is this challenge, do you find the planet, angle, etc., conjunct the GA easy or challenging? I will say that most people say that it's both. That kind of doesn't surprise me. I don't even think that was one of the, like, that's just what most people like typed in, is that they feel like it's both easy and challenging. Someone used the term electric to describe it in that particular paragraph, which I thought I get that. A few people said, 3 people specifically said it's easy more than it's challenging, but they still put that challenge in there. They still feel like it's challenging. I will say that a overwhelming majority of people, they may not have phrased it exactly this way, but like what they were saying essentially boiled down to having something conjunct the Great Attractor has gotten easier as they've gotten older. That doesn't really surprise me. I think a lot of things can become easier with age, but this kind of a thing, it does make sense. You know, the older you are, the more likely you are to be aware, you know, of this attracting, if you will. So it does make sense that as you get older, this would, you know, this might be easier to deal with, to have, you know, not that I think the Great Attractor is particularly, I mean, I think that it can be difficult, but I don't think it's as difficult as Shapley. I think Shapley is inherently more difficult. I think it is. That's not to say the Great Attractor can't be difficult either. Now most people, how many is it? 11 people said that one of the questions was, is the planet, etc., conjunct the GA conscious to you? 11 people said yes. 4 people said no, and 4 people made mention of sometimes. So more people said yes than no or sometimes. The most people that I had do this, it's a lot. There were a lot of Neptune conjunct the Great Attractor. A lot of people had that have that going on that answered the questionnaire. Also Mercury was another planet that it seemed like and when I say a lot, keep in mind there's like 19 people that have done the questionnaire, but like I can't remember I don't know if I wrote down oh no, I did. Mercury, 4 people. Mercury conjunct the GA. I can't remember what Neptune was. I didn't write that down like I should have. But I remember Neptune, there are a lot of Neptune conjunct the GA people. Something else people seem to report without directly being asked is that they are manifesting and have always been able to do this even before knowing what they were doing. This is something that again, people didn't put it exactly that way. Somebody may have put it somewhat close to that, but a lot of people, over half mentioned that they're able to, that they were, they've always been able to do this. I'm looking down at my notes, so you don't think I'm just like fucking around looking at the ground. So I thought that was interesting. Oh, Neptune. I didn't write down the number of people that have Neptune, but the people that do conjunct the Great Attractor, these people seem to be in the mixed bag of it being easy and challenging, of it being sometimes. Or no, sorry, not sometimes, of it being both. Excuse me, I was looking at the first question that I was answering. So that's interesting to me too. And I believe that not everybody that had Neptune conjunct the Great Attractor, because there were a couple that did actually make mention that it was conscious to them. But most of the no's for is the planet conjunct the Great Attractor conscious, most of those no's were people that had Neptune conjunct the Great Attractor, which doesn't surprise me because Neptune is more unconscious, nebulous, all of that. It doesn't surprise me that a lot of those people were the ones that said no. Okay. So now we're going to talk about the Shapley stuff. Okay, so I have here, and this, this doesn't surprise me, but it's good to know that I'm on the right track with this. Generally speaking, people do seem to find Shapley more difficult than the Great Attractor. And also, somebody had used the word that Shapley can be more subtle. And they find it to be a little less in their face all of the time. Somebody used that term subtle, but there were other people that kind of reported the same thing in what they were saying. So I think that's interesting. It does not surprise me that that people find Shapley more difficult than the Great Attractor. That part didn't surprise me, but it is good to know that I was on the right track with that. The thing about finding Shapley to be less in their face, that one I can't quite put. No, I mean I agree with it. I can't quite. Sometimes I have problems forming words in linear sentences. But I know where they're going with that. I might phrase it slightly. There's a squirrel. There's my ADHD. It's embarrassing. Okay. I might phrase it a little bit different, than the way that I wrote it here. But there is something to that. Anyway, I'm still doing this, but I'm gonna pull up the questions for these I'm not gonna share my screen or anything, but I am going to look directly at the questionnaire. Let me see here. Where is... Let me find it. Hold on. Bear with me for just a second while I get the... I'm going to pause this for just a second. Hold on. Sorry about that. My, like, I don't know, Google Forms was having like a seizure. I'm not sure what was going on there. Okay. I see the questions now. Okay. So 2, 3, 4. Okay. So the fourth question in the Shapley Attractor part is, do you feel that you are always consciously aware of the planet, etc., conjunct the Shapley Attractor? Really, this was kind of, not everybody who answered the questionnaire had something conjunct Shapley. So there were only, let me see, 13 people that answered this particular section. 4 people said yes. 4 people said maybe. 5 people said no. And somebody else mentioned, they said, someone mentioned attracting things they would normally avoid, which is very interesting. And I personally can't agree with that more. I almost want to throw that question in. I'm not going to name you by name who said that, but I'm not going to blast you, but thank you for saying that, because that is, I really feel like I kind of want to incorporate that question in this questionnaire, because it's a wonderful thing to mention, and I feel like it's very true. Asking the question, do you feel like you attract things that you would normally avoid? Really might throw that out there, just see what comes back. Okay, so the next one is, do you feel like the planet, etc., conjunct Shapley functions in a very extreme way? If so, do you feel like it functions in an extremely easy way or an extremely challenging way? The answer could absolutely be both of these. Don't feel like you only have to pick one. Everybody, well, no, I'll take that back. One person said not sure, but everybody else answered yes. So I feel like I am on the right track with that, because I do feel like Shapley specifically, I mean, it's in Scorpio, right? But you can have planets in Libra that are also conjunct Shapley at the very end of Libra. I do feel like Shapley is very, very extreme. Scorpio energy is very extreme where it is, but this doesn't have to swing in like an extremely bad direction. It could also be extremely good. But I do think that Shapley is more difficult. So I think it perhaps swing in a more extreme bad or extreme challenging direction is perhaps more likely, at least when people are younger. That's another thing. People, like I mentioned in the Great Attractor part of this, people have mentioned that they feel like they have more of a handle over a lot of these planets conjunct these attractors and the repeller as they get older. So yeah. Okay, so question 6 is, to add on to the last question, do you feel like you attract the very best and or the very worst of the planet conjunct Shapley into your life via people, places, things, and situations? As far as this one goes, let's see here. More people, okay, so 10 people said yes. No, sorry. Oh yeah, this one, a couple of these questions, right? Because I say you don't have to answer everything. Only 12 people answered this one. I was like, why is that number off? And I remember that because somebody didn't answer this one, which is totally fine. 10 people answered yes. 1 person said toss up, and then 1 person said no. Yeah. So that's interesting. Yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting. That we had the that we have the 1 person that said no. I feel like that's nice for them. I feel like it is. because I do feel like, you know, Shapley, I mean, obviously attracting the very best, that's great. But I do think that Shapley has a tendency to attract the very, you know, the very worst. Um, so it sounds like that hasn't happened to them, and that's amazing. That's really great. Okay. So there's that so far. Now, as far as the dipole repeller goes, oh, it's interesting. Some people, okay, so I mentioned before in the dipole repeller video that I did about a year and a half ago at this point. Some people feel, you know, the dipole repeller, it pushes towards Shapley, and Shapley pulls things towards it. That's how they function. So some people, some people feel that their planet, etc., not only pushes towards Shapley, but that it also pushes people away. A few people mentioned variations of this. I thought that was really interesting. Obviously, the part about like them feeling like the planet, angle, asteroid, etc., does push towards Shapley. Them saying that they feel like they also push people away, or it pushes people away, or people are pushed away by it. And these are people that don't, you know, they're bringing other people into the equation, even when the, say, the dipole repeller and planet or whatever conjunct the dipole aren't in like the aren't in the seventh house, or some other sort of, you know, partnership, sort of somehow partnerships you wouldn't normally think to bring that up, or that it would play in. So I did think that was interesting. But really, when you think about it, the dipole repeller and Shapley work as partners in a sense. They work as a team. Dipole pushes towards Shapley, Shapley pulls things towards it. So there is, I guess, kind of it made me think about that, the partnership thing with these a little bit more than, you know, maybe I had before. So I thought that was really interesting. I might even throw that in a question about the dipole repeller, you know, and under that section, seeing if people feel like that planet pushes people away, or people are pushed away by it even without the person doing anything. It's just an interesting idea. So thank you for bringing that up. There were a few people that said things like this. So thank you for mentioning that. It's very helpful for research purposes. It's very helpful. Okay, so as far as this goes, okay, so there are other questions. I'm not going through every single question that's asked on here, but I'm only kind of doing the ones that I've kind of dived into now, or as of now. Okay, so one of the questions was, how do you feel about the planet, etc., conjunct the dipole repeller? Do you feel like you have an easy, challenging, or neutral relationship with it or them? Okay, so overwhelmingly, there were 11 people that answered this section. Nobody said that they felt the dipole repeller was easy. There's not one tally here. Not one. 3 people said they feel like it is easy and difficult. And then 8 people said they felt like it was difficult, just difficult. The next question was, do you feel like you have a good handle on the planet, etc., conjunct the dipole repeller, on what they want to express, where they want to express by house, how they want to express by sign, etc. As far as this one goes, we have 7 people that said yes, 2 people said no, and 2 people said something like, I'm still learning about this particular point, or it's taking time, what have you. So that one was more people do feel like they have a good handle on this, which I thought was interesting. Actually, I wasn't sure how that question would go. So to see it, you know, 7 people of the 11 that answered this say that they do have a good handle on it, that makes me think about like, okay. I was not that I was expecting anything specifically, but it's just interesting when it's like I go into something with a neutral thought, and then I see something kind of going one way. I'm like, that's interesting. Okay. So the next one is, do you ever feel like the planet, etc., conjunct the dipole repeller, falls falls away from you, is, are less accessible, or go completely into the void. For this one, I have 8 people said yes, 2 people said no, and 1 person said not sure. So more people than not do feel like the planet, angle, asteroid, whatever, conjunct the dipole repeller, does kind of fall away from the person, and or it kind of slips into a void. And that's what I mean by being accessible, just like falls away into a void. Not necessarily that the person isn't conscious of it, but just that it kind of like falls into a void or it can. And then the next one is, okay, if your answer to the above was a yes in any kind of a way, how often would you say the above is the case? And the above is the last question we just talked about. As far as this one goes, I have 4 people said often. 1 person said not often. 4 people said sometimes. And then 1 person said, let me see here. Is that right? Sorry, 2 people said, let me think on this more, essentially. So, and many mentioned, I have here in my notes also, many mentioned this was harder when they were younger. Or they found this harder, or they found the void thing, going completely into the void, that planet, angle, etc. They seem like it was more of an issue when they were younger, which again is a sentiment that has been echoed through this whole research so far in different ways. Because there's another thing, the last part of each section of the questionnaire is like, is there anything else you want me to know or want to share about your experience with the Shapley Attractor, with the Great Attractor, with the Dipole Repeller? And that's when you can, kind of, well, I mean, you can free range write all throughout it. But that's when people, kind of throw out even more stuff. And that is something that has come through quite a bit, is that these different points seem to be easier when as a person gets older. And what's interesting about that? Well, that's definitely, like I was saying earlier, I think things, just generally speaking, things can get easier with age. Especially things that might not always be as conscious, right? Attracting things, repelling things that are just kind of automatically happen that aren't as conscious. What's interesting though is I don't remember so many people saying this kind of a thing with the Galactic Center and the Galactic Grand Cross. I mean, I'm sure there have been a few, but as of now, with these 19 people that have done this so far, that has been said in one way or another by a lot of people. And I did not see that quite so much or I have not seen that so far with the GC research as much. So that is interesting too. Not that they're the same research, but they're all galactic things, some kind of, I'm thinking about them, not necessarily together, but just my experience having done the GC stuff so far and this stuff, just interesting. Anyway, I'm going to go and head off. Like I said, though, throughout the end of the year, I may not be around as much. The holidays are busy. Holidays are a busy time of year, just in general. So I may not be around as much, but I will be around. And definitely, if you want me to read for you, I'm always around for that. I'm always happy to do that. Again, readings are on sale through January 6th. You don't have to have the reading happen before January 6th. It just needs to be purchased before then. We can do whatever you want. As long as I practice it, we can do it. And if you're looking for something free, definitely I go to Reddit, go to other forums, ask them there. Because there are people that are on those. I mean, I won't lie to you, there are people on those that don't seem to know their ass from their elbow, but there are a lot of people on there that do and that are good. On the, especially, I mean, I'm speaking about the Let's Fuck with Astrology subreddit more than any of them, because that's the one that I'm the most familiar with at this point. There are a lot of people on there that do know what they're doing, which I appreciate. If you're somebody watching this right now and you are somebody who answers questions on there for people, thank you. I really do appreciate it. Thank you. And I'm gonna go ahead and head off, but I will see you all later.